This is kind of a dark subject, but I think we should talk about suicide. Some of
Right.
the local current events mention yesterday, this week, a YouTuber by the name of Logan Paul. You heard of him?
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of yucky. But all the kids are talking about it. And yeah, my kids are all talking about it. Everybody knows talking about it. He went and filmed in this forest. It's in Japan, and it's called a suicide forest. And apparently, sometimes people go there to commit suicide.
Hmm.
And so I thought, with all of your knowledge about spirits and stuff like that, maybe you could share a little bit about what you think that's all about and what you think happens when someone commits suicide.
Well, what happens when someone commits suicide is it causes great pain and sorrow and misery for people who love that person left behind. It really punishes them, actually. They're confused. They sort of think, if only I'd been in there, maybe I would have saved them or something. But if you really want to commit suicide, you go ahead anyway. I mean, I've had quite a few readings from people who've experienced suicides, a partner or someone in their family or a close friend or something, and it's devastating. I mean, I years and years ago, I remember someone I knew, committed suicide, and it just creates
It's
total.
devastating.
Sorry.
They said it is devastating. It's
It is.
absolutely awful.
It is. I mean,
Um,
when you die, you go somewhere, and you're okay. It's the body that feels the pain. It's the in death, you go. The problem is that you tend to go where you think you go, and if you think there's nothing, or whatever, then you go to that place, and it's more of a belief system than actual reality. And it's, I mean, a lot of people who lose their lives like this, they actually think someone will save them, someone will find them. They'll find the thing and they'll realise, and they hot foot to where they are and rescue them in the nick of time. But people don't, because they don't find the notes or the message or something like that, and it makes it a very tricky kind of thing. And the problem with these reports is that it encourages people who are suicidal to contemplate it more. And I mean, actually, in the UK for many years, they stopped reporting suicides or where it happened, because people who are suicidal would tend to congregate to those places. And so it's a very sad, depressing kind of subject, but it is the mental distress that it causes. And I mean,
it
for
causes
someone
so much
to
distress.
on YouTube to go a place and film that, I mean, it shows his ignorance more than anything else. It's a private kind of tragedy that affects so many other people.
There was a movie, an American movie, I think it came out in maybe 2016. It was called The Forest, and I think it was maybe kind of based on the suicide forest in Japan.
Right.
Do you think that type of thing helps encourage suicide? And did that give kind of this forest
I,
maybe a,
don't know anything about the film. I haven't seen it. But it's, I mean, in Japan, there's a history of these kind of things. Anyway, it's a cultural thing that goes on there, which in the West we're not really
almost like
understand.
it's almost like a samurai thing,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it's an honor thing, Better not to bring,
Yeah,
kill yourself in
yeah.
order to dishonor you, bring no more dishonor onto your family. I mean, the point of life is for living, and and ending your life sooner than it should be. I mean, because we don't really know exactly how long we're supposed to live, but I mean, we should be living longer rather than doing anything stupid. And it is punishing the living. Actually, it really punishes the living because the dead go free. And the
As
other
far as
thing,
your work goes, does it make your work a lot harder? How do you deal with some of the spirits?
it's the thing is, there's sometimes the spirit of the person hangs around because they think they don't go anywhere, so they tend to associate with a place where where they lost their life, and it creates an energy and that attracts these kind of things. And there's a lot of problems with that.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, our internet's going crazy. That energy can cause a lot of problems, can't it?
A lot of problems.
When you're trying to do your work.
Yeah, but sometimes it's a contributory thing rather than the cause. I mean, it dwells on people's minds when something like this happens. I mean, if something's an accident, you can say, bad luck, it was an accident. But when it's deliberate, it just creates, this intense pain and sorrow that lasts for years and years and years, and just casts a shadow over people's lives. And I know it's really sorry, really sad kind of thing that goes on.
Well, could you tell us if you were doing a reading, or I'm sure you've done many of these, but what happens, or could you give some advice maybe to some tarot card readers out there who do a reading and kind of feel like maybe their client is in trouble, maybe considering suicide? What are some things you could do to talk to them about to help them through that?
I mean, it's something happened very early on in my career. Just come back to mind, actually. One guy came for reading as a middle-aged man, probably my age now, and he said, well, I've come on in one reason to Bryce, and that's to kill myself. So that was so, well, what terrible things have you done? I can't tell you, what terrible things, and it's too disgusting. I was so ashamed. And actually, he had a lot of guilt, and the thing was that what he'd done actually on the scale of things wasn't that bad. And I said, well, does anybody know that he hadn't hurt anyone, he hadn't abused anyone, but I said, well, does anybody know that you've done these things? And he said, no. I said, do the police know? He said, no, because he was thinking of going to the police and sort of confessing and handing himself in. And I said, well, look, and it's interesting because when he told me, it's not a huge kind of thing, it's more someone were needing help. And he said, I thought you'd throw up. He said to me, I thought you'd throw up when I told you what it was. So I went through rape, murder,
Right. Sounds pretty good.
These things, you sort of think, well, what is it? If it's not rape, if it's not murder, if it's...
Sometimes we get in our own head. Sometimes we think things are worse than they really are.
It is, And, it's really funny, actually, because he basically told me where he'd come down from, and I did a reading for someone from that area, and she's helping people with some sexual problems and stuff and things. And she said to enter this thing, and this guy said, hello, I'm so-so, I used to be a flasher, and that was the guy. So it's the guilt and humiliation that the person thinks that people have for them that cause them to end their life. And a lot of the time, it's if things happen, and you judge, and sometimes you don't judge. but it's not an extreme thing that's required. I mean, because the people who do bad things don't feel bad about the actions they've done, you know. And you know, I met people who are criminal done for readings, and they don't feel any remorse for their actions. But I mean, you know, it's a very, you know, I once remember doing a reading for a woman. She was about 60 something, I think, and before she sat down, I said to her, "I feel I've got to talk to you about death." And she said, "Yeah, my son committed suicide 3 months ago. You know, I'm a man. What can I say to that? You know." And she's, you know, she actually just wanted to know that just for the next 6 months, nothing bad would happen. You know, but the thing to do is, you know, for people who have gone through these things, is you often have awareness of them, and sometimes these people who've done these things don't know they died because they took an overdose or something. They still think they're around. They're not, and sometimes you kind of have to have an awareness and so say to them, "Look, you know, you died that night," because they don't know, because they're still hanging around, and you know, you kind of need to tell them to go off and see their relatives who passed on, or their parents or grandparents or something, and to sort of have some peace on the
If someone has experienced this in their family, and
yeah,
they're maybe a relative or a friend or whatever, and they feel like maybe there's a problem, what
yeah.
are some of the signs that they would look for that maybe there could be a problem that the person has yet to be able to know that they're
There's,
dead and passed
there's a kind of obsessional kind of thinking process that goes on with these things, and I mean, sometimes that person needs a prayer to be said or something, and you can do that, or some flowers in the place, or you know, things like this. But I mean, you know, it's depending on where you are, you can always contact me and find out, you know, exactly what has happened. Because there are strange things that can go on, you know,
on.
with
You're an
these things.
expert in it. You know how to help them go
Yeah, yeah.
on and get
There's,
past.
there's 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 certain things that can be done to help on these things. Um, but I mean, part of the thing is understanding that you're not to blame for what that person did. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
they did what they did, and you know, they're thinking they take away their pain, but they're just leaving the pain for everyone else, and it just, you know, it's a sad subject. But I mean, you know, you've got to live on life. You've got to, you know, carry on and move on. It's important, you know, because you know, so you got kids to look after. You've got to, you know, people depend on you in some form. And life is worth living. You've got to carry on and find enjoyment and peace of mind on things. You know, prayer is good. It's good to believe in some God, some deity, and you can't prove the afterlife. You can't prove there isn't anything, and you can't prove that there is. But psychologically, it's always better to believe there is something, because then you have somewhere to go to. Otherwise, you just kind of like, well, worm food, or you know, and that's it. You know, and you know, there's more to life than this kind of existential kind of angst that people get into. Especially this time of the year is the worst. Just after Christmas and the New Year, it's a busy time. You know, for people, it's dark. It's, you know, Christmas wasn't that fantastic. New Year was maybe solitary, alone, or something like this. And well, what's the worth carrying on for? You know, and it's a hard subject to deal with for people, lonely, you know. But I mean, there's lots of happy people who mask their true feelings on things as well. So it's not, you know, it's someone being morbid doesn't mean they're going to kill themselves either. You know, it can be people who seem outwardly cheerful and positive and happy. You know, there's not necessarily a kind of pattern to things that shows up.
Right. Well, it's wonderful to know that there are experts out there that can help,
Yeah,
and people like you.
yeah.
So you did a great job today. Thank you for sharing this
Thank you.
not so fun topic. Next time, a really fun topic. Does that
Okay
sound
then.
good?